Pekudei, this week's parasha, Parashat Vaykhel Pekudei. In Parashat Vaykhel and in Parashat Pekudei, we learn about the building of the Mishkan was completed, and the pasuk in chapter 39 in pasuk 33 says as follows: Vayaviu et hamishkan el Moshe et haohel ve'et kol kelav kirasav kirashav berihav va'amudav va'adanav. Rashi brings a medrash tanchuma, and Rashi says Vayaviu et hamishkan shelo hayu yecholin lahakimo. The Jewish people were unable to put up the Mishkan. And Moshe also didn't do any work in the Mishkan. So Hashem wanted Moshe to do it. Why couldn't no one put it up? No one could put it up because it was so heavy. It's impossible to do it. As man does not have the strength to set them straight. And Moshe, who put it up, how can I put this up? So it's not just the people couldn't do it. Moshe also said, how can I do this? So listen to what Hashem tells him. This is Medrash Tanchuma. Amar lo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Asok ata beyadecha. You do what's in your hand. A very important yesod, Rabotai. Asok ata beyadecha. You involve yourself with your hand. V'nireh kim kimo. And it will appear as if you're setting it up. V'nireh kim kimo. It's looking like you're doing it. Vehu niskaf v'kam me'elav. But it will rise upright and stand by itself. Vezehu shene'emar. And that's why it says later on, Hukam hamishkan. The Mishkan was set up, ki'ilu, by itself. Hukam me'elav. Midrash Rabbi Tanchuma. So this is an amazing lesson over here. Is that we sometimes think that we're doing the job. And the lesson that Rashi is teaching us here is that the Jews couldn't pick it up. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't do it. Moshe Rabbeinu was instructed to do the motions. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will put up the Mishkan. Because a lot of times we think that the work is up to us. That we have to get it done. But the truth is, it's never done by us. All that we can do is just start. The Gemara in Yomah tells us, Haba l'taher. If somebody comes to become purified, he gets helped. What does he have to do? He has to come. Haba l'taher. He has to come to say, I want to become purified. A person has to take the first step. He has to come closer. He has to try to break the bad habit. He has to go away from the sin. The Midrash Rabbah in Shir HaShirim tells us a very interesting idea. We read the Shir HaShirim, and we say, Kol dodi dofek pitchi li. Open up for me. The sound of my beloved knocking, Pithili, open up for me. What does this Pithili mean? So one of the explanations brought down in the Midrash, Rabbi Yesa Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu li Yisrael, Banai. Hashem said to the Jewish people, my children, Pithuli petach echad shel teshuvah. Open up for me a hole of teshuvah, kehuda shel mahat. Like the opening, like the point of a needle. Va'ani poteach lachem petachim shiyu agalot ukroniyot nichnasot bo. And I will open for you an opening so wide that wagons and carriages can enter into them. See, the Midrash says here, Rabotai, the Midrash says you open up an opening, small little opening, like the size of a needle hole. And a Kadosh Baruch Hu will open it wide, wide, wide. But you have to open it up like the prick of a needle. That's the lesson. That's the catch. It says sometimes people open things, right? If you make a hole in the margarine, right, and then you put it near the fire, what happens? The hole's gone. There's no more hole there. Someone makes a hole in the sand. How long does that hole stay? The sand will come back. A lot of things are like this. A little bit of heat closes the gap. A little bit of this closes the gap. But when you take a needle and you put it through, like a nail, and you put it through a piece of wood, what happens? If you take out the nail, it's still going to be the hole there. That's why the Midrash says you have to make a hole like that of a needle, where the hole really exists. It means that the opening, the feeling, has to be there. Rav Dessler in the Mechtav Eliyahu asks, where does this hole have to be? A piece of wood, on the floor, in the chair, where does it be? He says the hole has to be in your heart. The hole for teshuvah, for the yearning, for anything a person wants to do, and he needs Hashem's assistance, you have to have the hole in your heart, but it has to be a lasting hole. Not like the hole when you put your finger in the water and you split it, and when you take it away, it goes back into the stream, right? When you have the sink. It has to be a really committed hole. You have to be, which means for us, it means you have to be really committed, right? That famous story where the guy comes to the rabbi and says, I need a lot of money. So the rabbi says, okay, go buy a lottery ticket. You're going to be the winner, right? He says, Rabbi, I believe you. I trust you. I believe everything. He buys a lottery ticket. The day before the drawing comes, so the rabbi calls him back and says, listen, let me get your ticket. And that has the potential of winning $1 million. I'll give you $10,000 for it today. So the Jew said, of course, Rabbi, here it is. So the rabbi said, you don't get the 10,000 and you don't get the million either. He says, why not? He says, because you never believed it. If you would have believed that this ticket is really worth $1 million, right? I can really get the $1 million. I would never cash it in for 10,000. So what we want to say over here is, if a person really wants to have that ratzon, and he's pitchili, and he's opening up, and he's making that petach, kichudo shel machat, it has to be a real commitment. I really want to change. There's a lot of people that say, I want to. I had a friend once that he wasn't learning so well in yeshiva. So I asked him, well, come on, we all want to have fun and stuff like that, but at least during this amount of learning, let's focus. He said, no, I'm up to the stage of I want to learn. So he doesn't just want to learn, he wants to learn. It's a stage. It is a stage. But I don't know if that stage is enough. So, because a lot of times people want to do a lot of great things. And before they know it, they're in the grave. And they never got it done. So at some point, the commitment really has to happen. I really commit to getting this done. And when a person really commits, and he makes that hole like the hole of a needle, that's when it's actually going to happen. That's when Hashem's going to open up and say, you want to learn all the Torah? You're really committing to it? That's really you want? Now it's yours. You really want to become this madriga? You're really committing to it? Now you'll have it. You really want to become a better person? You really commit to it. Just a small hole in it. And Hashem will open up so much more that wagons and carriages can come flying through them. How much more a person can get. It's an interesting Gemara in Bava Batra. The Gemara talks about Hezekiah, if someone sees something, he can ruin something, and how privacy is important. And the Gemara wants to know, where do we know that privacy is so important? Where do we learn this from? Okay. Here we go. So the Mishnah rules that one may not open the doorway opposite a doorway or a window. So the Gemara wants to know, where do we know this from? So Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Kira, the Pasuk says, Vayisa Bil'am et Einav, Vayar et Yisrael shochen lishpatav. And Bilam raised his eyes, and he saw Yisrael dwelling tribe by tribe. Mara'a, and he gave a bracha to that. Mara'a, what did he see? Ra'a she'en pitchei ohelehem mechuvanin ze lezeh. They were not aligned to one another. So the doors were off. The windows were off. So nobody was looking into each other. They are worthy to have Shekhinah on them. Right? This reminds me of that story. There was this Bukharian older couple that went for a walk outside in Regal Park. And as they're walking outside one of the buildings, he sees inside through the window what a beautiful furnished room, an apartment, everything is so beautifully done, and the moldings on the walls and this and that. And he turns to his wife and he says, I bet these guys are on Section 8. Yeah, Section 8, and they have this beautiful apartment and this and that and that and that. And his wife tells him, quiet down, that's your apartment. They're on Section 8 and they have this beautiful apartment. Right? But that's what happens when people are looking into other things. Now, Rav Elbaz says there are some who learn this drasha a little bit different. What was Bilam saying? He saw that their openings were not aligned. You know what it means not aligned? He said, how could it be? They make a small opening and HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes it and opens it even longer. That's what he says. He says what we just learned about Moshe in the Mishkan. Hashem said, just do it, I'll make it open. That if you open the size of a needle for Teshuvah, Hashem gets you even more and more. Bilam saw this. He said, how do the Jews have this power? It must be that the Shekhinah is with them. And he gave them bracha because the Shekhinah is with them. What? It's not aligned. It's not aligned in the sense that you would think a small door is a small door. But it's not. A small door can fit so much more. He's giving a spin on it. But the spin isn't a very important lesson. We Jews don't understand our potential. We learn all these stories like there was one Jew and he davened and he did this and he changed the world. How? Like he saved this, he saved that one Jew. How? Why? Because that is the power that we have. The power that we have if we really commit and we really do and we really make that hole, that opening. We make that one opening. But a really committed opening, Hashem opens it up. That's the power that a Jew has. A small opening, a small commitment can make so much more happen.
It's just that we need that maaseh should be attributed to the Baal, to the Chatan. That's where she is.
There was a story with Rebbetzin Kanievsky. Rebbetzin Batsheva Kanievsky, the wife of Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, the daughter of Rabbi Yosef Shalom Elyashiv. They came to her, parents, a mother and a father came to her, and they said, we had a daughter, she went to a religious school, she went from a religious home, and she went to, she became a social worker or something like that. She completed her studies and went to work, and she tried to find work in a religious place, couldn't find it, and ended up working in a non-religious place. And they said, no, she was a religious girl. She would withstand the tests and the challenges, the nisyonos of being in a non-Jewish environment. But they said, unfortunately, just last night she came home and she says she met a boy at her work and she's ready to get married, simple and plain. And the parents said, who is this boy? Who's this boy? She didn't want to give the name. But they looked into it, they asked questions, and they found out the boy was an Arab. Not even Jewish. So you're talking about a Beis Yaakov girl who is now ready to get married to an Arab boy. They came, they were crying. But she already made up her mind. The parents, they convinced her to go to Rebbetzin Batsheva Kanievsky. The Rebbetzin sat with her and said, be careful, you're Jewish, you're throwing away your Mesorah, you're throwing away your ancestors. And nothing worked.
And it triggers.
And she said, listen, everyone has a right to follow their own heart, their own judgment. This is what I want.
Shlichut transforms
So Rebbetzin Kanievsky said to her, listen,
into a maaseh that we don't.
I have one small thing to ask you.
That's what it's going to be doing.
We have a Tehillim here.
Otherwise, it's pitu b'milah ve'alma.
Tehillim.
It's not saying words.
She said, I have one small thing to ask you. 43. There's more 43. She said, I want you just to remain somewhat connected to Judaism. You're going out with this guy. I don't know what's going to be. I want you to remain somewhat connected to Judaism. Do one mitzvah. And the girl said, listen, I can't promise any mitzvot. You know, I'm in a different lifestyle now. So she said, listen, one perek of Tehillim. One perek of Tehillim a day, that will keep you connected to Judaism. So the girl agreed. So she's about to get up and leave. She said, no, you can't get up and leave. You've committed. Start right now. That one Tehillim you're going to do right now. So she takes out the Sefer Tehillim and opens it up randomly to the page, and it turns out to be Mizmor 43. So the girl reads it. Shofteni Elohim v'divar rivi. Avenge me, O God, champion my cause. Against who? Migoy lo hasid, from the nation that's unkind. Mi ish mirma ve'avla tefaliteni. Deliver me from a man of deceit and iniquity. The girl's reading this and she starts to shake. She says, what are you giving me? You're trying to tell me something? She says, I don't know, I'm just giving it to you. And she sinks into her mind. She says, how am I marrying this guy? I know for a fact that his cousins killed Jews. I know for a fact that his relatives did these things. He's a man of deceit. This is the nation that's not kind. They're not kind to my people. And that one little Mizmor Tehillim that she read changed her life. Pit Haley. That one little opening changes everything else. Rebbetzin Kanievsky instructed her, helped her, and got her to become more religious. This reminds me of a famous story that's said over by the Balatanya. The Balatanya was in a town, and they told him that there's no mikvah in this town. So they said, why not? What's going on? So they said, we have people who are rich here, but the people don't want to, donate to the mikvah. There's one rich guy who can do it. He doesn't want to give money. We go to him for money, he gives 5 cents. So the Balatani said, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to go talk to him. They said, Rabbi Tanya, you're wasting your time. He gives 5 cents. He's not going to give you any more. I said, I'm going. He took his Hasidim and he went to this rich man. He gets to this rich man, and the rich man invites him inside. Rabbi, please come inside. Gives him water, gives him cakes, cookies. So the Balatani says, listen, I tell you for my reason for my trip. I'm here because I'm trying to solicit funds for the mikvah. So the guy says, wow, mikvah is a huge thing, a huge deal. He says, I'm going to write you a check. He takes out his checkbook, he writes a check and gives it to the Balatani. Balatani takes a look at the check, and lo and behold, it's for 5 cents. The Balatani says, you should know you just did a huge mitzvah. May Hashem bless you and your family for everything that you do, for all you do for Klal Yisrael, for everything that you help with. May you see only good and better and better. And everybody said, and the rabbi got up to walk out. And as he's walking out, the man says, Rabbi, I don't think I gave enough. So he went out and he says, how much you really need? He says, let's give a number. He says, I need 10,000 rubles. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to write you a check really for 5,000 rubles now. He takes out another check and he writes one for 5,000. Everybody is amazed. He gives it to the rabbi and the rabbi gives another mishiberach. And he gives him a huge beracha. The rabbi thanks him again. He starts walking down the stairs. He's ready to finish up over here. And this man stops the rabbi and says, Rabbi, please don't go yet. He says, what do you mean? He says, I have to give you the rest of the money. Takes out another check and writes another 5,000 ruble check. And he gives it to the Baal Tanya. The Baal Tanya gives him a third Mishiberach. And the man says, any more you need? And the Baal Tanya says, no, we're good. Baruch Hashem, we have the funds. So the people that were with the Baal Tanya, especially the people of that community, they said to the Baal Tanya, what mofes, what miracle, what enchantment, what spell did you put on this man that you got so much money out of him? And the Baal Tanya told him, let me tell you what really happened over there. There's no magic. He said, this man really wants to give. But like everybody else he has a Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara did not let him to give. The Yetzer Hara only let him to give 5 cents. But what happened when he gave 5 cents to everyone else? They took it and they threw it back at him. They said, 5 cents? What's this 5 cents? You can afford a lot more. So they threw it back at him. He said, I didn't do that. I took it. I let him be mikayem the mitzvah. A through and through mitzvah. He really committed to the mitzvah. He gave 5 cents. I gave him Mishiberach for that. And once they opened up a little bit, but he really did that mitzvah tzedakah. Now what happens? It opens up more and more and more, and we were able to get all the funds we need from him. It's a very, very powerful idea. People could become balei tshuva from one little thing that they really commit to. That's why it's important to realize that when we deal with people, whether Krovim or Rechoikim, I mean those who are closer to Torah but straight a little bit, or those who are far in Torah and straight a lot, the way to get them back is not everything on top of them and forcing them and stuff like that. The way to get them is to find that opening. Which opening can they really commit to with full commitment? One thing that will open, and open. That's what they say. One Shabbat can change everything. One Daf Gemara can change it. One little this can change it. One little encounter can change it. Because if you really can make that rishon of making that needle hole really through and through, you got it. You changed it. You made the difference. You're really going to make it happen. Now, Rabbi Elbaz here shares an incredible story, if I may say. He says sometimes a person wants to make tshuva. A person wants to do something good. And he starts it. And he really commits to it. But then things all turn bad for him. Right? I want to keep Shabbat. I really commit to it. He closes his door on Shabbat, and the business starts to drop. And everything starts to drop. I really tried. So how to look at that? Rabbi says an amazing story. There was a Lubavitcher Chassid living in Manhattan, and like many good Lubavitcher Chassidim, they opened up a tefillin stand. And every day, he would stand on a corner in one of the streets of Manhattan, and he would ask the people, who is Jewish? Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? And luckily, he would get people, and he would put tefillin on them. Now, you know, Manhattan's got millions of people, lots of sidewalks filled. And every day, there were random people that came over and said he was Jewish. He put on tefillin, said Shema with them. But then it became, there was one person that kept coming every single day. Every day, this guy came again and again and again. And they got to start to know each other. It came around Purim time, and this Hasid said to this man who was coming, he said, do you want me to come to your house on Purim? You can make a seudah and invite your other Jewish friends, and we can make a seudah in your house. So the guy who's becoming more religious says, I love this idea. On Purim, let's set it for 5 o'clock. And me and my friends will come, says the Chassid, and we'll make your Purim Seudah lively. So they agreed. And the Hasid got a couple of his friends on Purim day, and they made their way off to this guy. They get to this guy's house, but unfortunately, what happened was There was a lot of traffic. There was accidents. The car got stuck. The car ran out of gas. Everything that could have gone wrong happened. And they ended up coming to this guy's house around 10 p.m. So they promised to be there at 5, and they ended up there at 10. They knock on the door. The host opens, and without hiding his anger, he starts screaming and lashing out and saying to the Hasid, "Shame on you! You told me you're gonna come 5 o'clock. It's 10 p.m. I had all my friends. They all left. Shame on you! Everyone came. Everyone left." And his wife joins in. She looks at the Hasidim and she says to them, "Leave! You're all liars. You and all the Jews are liars." They tried to explain, "What do you want? We tried. It was an accident. There was a car. It was a delay. There was a this. There was a that. But I meant this is what happened." They look through the door on them and they say, "Get out of here. You're a bunch of liars." The next day was Friday, right after Purim. And this Hasid said to himself, "I'm scared to go back on the street. This guy who I didn't go to his house, he's a huge guy. Maybe tomorrow he's going to come and he's going to beat me up. And I'll get tefillin to people. He's going to see me, he's going to be upset. He's going to beat me up." He's thinking. He says, "You know what? I'm doing a mitzvah. I'm a shliach mitzvah. Nothing will happen to me. No, I don't know why Hashem made this happen, that we came late and everything happened. I will continue in my avodah. I'm going to continue in my service." And so he goes and he continues his tefillin stand. He does his tefillin stand and he sees this big guy, the guy who didn't come to his house yesterday. He sees him there. And he gets scared. He doesn't know what to do. He thinks he's about to knock me out. And all of a sudden, this big man comes over to him and gives him this huge hug. He gives him this huge hug. And he says, "Thank you, thank you." He says, thank you for what?" He says, "I'm so sorry." The Chassid says, "I'm so sorry, I didn't." He says, Don't say I'm sorry. You saved me. You saved my neshama." He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Be'emet, a few years ago, I married a non-Jew. And I knew it was wrong. But I didn't want to just leave her alone. And I told her, I asked her about separating, and she said no, and I didn't want to, do that to her. And so I was stuck in this marriage that I felt was wrong. And I felt was asur." And he said, "Yesterday, after you guys left, my wife turned to me and she said, 'You're Jewish and you're a liar just like them, and oh, you were terrible, and I want nothing to do with you.' And she wants a divorce." And he says, "All this time I was scared to bring it up and say it and this and that. But I felt it was wrong and I wanted to get out of it. And now it happened. You saved my neshama. You saved my soul. And now I'll be able to become more and more Jewish." And so sometimes we think things are going wrong. Things are not supposed to be this way. But a person must understand that if he's doing it all l'shem shamayim, each and every step of the way is l'shem shamayim, then he doesn't need to know the results. He knows that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is running the show, and Hashem knows what he's doing. And his job is just to do. In fact, there is another midrash that talks about this. I just want to look at it just to kind of put this idea in a polished version. I will tell you, there's a Midrash Rabbah in Kohelet. The first Midrash Rabbah in Kohelet. Listen to this story. Ma'aseh beRabbi Hanina ben Dosa shera'a b'ne'iro ma'alin nidarim undva'ot l'Yerushalayim. Hanina ben Dosa saw that everybody was taking up nidarim undavot, different types of sacrifices, up to Jerusalem. Amar, he said, "Hakom ma'alin l'Yerushalayim nidarim undavot. V'ani eni ma'ale davar." And Rabbi Mendoza feels bad. He says, "I have nothing to bring up." Me'asa, what did he do? Yatsa limidbara shel iro v'ra'a sham even ahad v'shibacha v'siteta umirkah. He goes out there. He goes out to the midbara, to the outskirts, and He locates a certain stone, and he carves it, chisels it, smooths it, and he transforms it into a beautiful work of art. Okay? Va'amar, harei alai laha'alota leYerushalayim. Now, let me bring this up to Jerusalem. I have something to give to the temple. Bikesh liskor lo po'alim, but it's a heavy stone. So he needs some, porters, some laborers to take it for him. Nizdamenu lo hamisha bnei adam. 5 people appeared to him. Amar lahen ma'alin li atem even zo Yerushalayim. Take this up to me for Jerusalem. Amru lo tein lanu 50 silaim va'anu ma'alim oto Yerushalayim. They said, give us 50 silaim, 50 silver coins. And so what does he do? Bikesh litin lehem balonim tzabiyado davar l'sha'a. And he goes and he puts his hands in his pocket looking to give them something, and he doesn't have. So he nihu v'alachu lahem. So he leaves them, and they leave him, and they went on their way. Now God sends 5 angels in the guise of men. Amr lehem, atema lein li evenzo. He says, listen, can you guys take this up to Jerusalem for me? Amrullah, they said to him, Ten lanu hamisha silaim, va'anu ma'alin lecha avnecha Yerushalayim. They said, give us 5 silver coins, and we'll take this up to Jerusalem. Uvilvad, on the condition, shititen yadcha ve'etzba'acha imanu, that you place your hand and finger on the stone with us. So, give us 5 coins, and you also do something with us. So he places his hand and finger on the stone, and they were immediately found to be standing in Yerushalayim. He gets immediately to Jerusalem, right? It was like they transported, they teleported, okay? They teleported to Jerusalem. He looks around, they're not there. He wants to pay them. So he goes to the Mikdash, and he asks over there, and they tell him, it was Malachim, we're angels. And he gives those money, I believe he gives it to the Bedek Habayit, and he gives the money to the Mikdash. Now, there's a couple of ideas here that we have to focus on. Number 1, there's another Midrash, the same Midrash, that says the first men asked for 100 coins. That's number 1. Here in that Midrash, we see the Vaykhel ben Dosa, he's putting his hands in his pocket looking for the coins. I mean, Vaykhel ben Dosa was not the richest man. And he probably knows what he has in his pocket. Most people know how much money around they have in their wallet, in their pockets. And why, when he gets to 5 other people, for 5 silver coins, does he say, did they tell him, you have to put your hand on the stone? What is going on over here? The idea is, when a person faces an important but seemingly impassable task, he should not be discouraged from trying. Maybe in the natural order, efforts will never bring him to his goal. But when he makes the effort and demonstrates his interest and desire to perform the good deed, Hashem intervenes, setting aside the laws of nature to make his holy ambition a reality. Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa looks in his pockets for the 50 silver coins. Why? Because he says, listen, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm opening up the thing. So maybe I'll find the 50 coins. No, it didn't happen. But he still had to show that he really wanted it. He had to make that real commitment. And when he did, they said, all you need is 5 coins. And now he has the 5 coins. And in addition, they tell him, put your hand on it. Why? Because your effort has to be there. A person's effort has to be there. Malachim won't take it for you unless you and yourself will also be there. Chaim Shmulevitz in Sichos Musar points this out from Bitya, the daughter of Paro. When she sees the baby crying in the Nile, the Midrashim say she stretched her hand out, and her hand stretched further and further until she was able to reach the baby. It was a miracle. Why is she even trying? Why is she even trying if she sees that the baby is so far? Because the idea is your effort is just your effort. The result is from God. And as such, you're obligated to do your part. And Hashem will take care of the rest. That is this important lesson over here. Now maybe with this idea, this yesod, we can understand another phenomenon that can be found in this parasha, Vaykhel Pekudei. And this comes from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Lord Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he says he was once traveling with the former Prime Minister, Tony Blair. And he told, that he was sitting with Tony Blair, and Tony Blair turns to the Chief Rabbi and says, Chief Rabbi, I got up to that part in the Bible that's very boring. So the Chief Rabbi Sachs says to him, which part can be really boring? He said, I got up to Exodus, right? At the end of Exodus, in the book of Exodus, I see that, talking about the building of the tabernacle, and there's just verses and verses and verses, hundreds of verses, talking about the building of the tabernacle. So, Rabbi Sachs gives a beautiful answer. Rabbi Sachs says, let me ask the Olam another question. Says, Ma'aseh Bereshit, the creation of the world. How many psukim are used for the creation of the world? The beginning of the book of Genesis. 31 verses in the creation of the universe. However, the creation of the tabernacle, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of psukim, of verses dedicated to that. Why? So said Rabbi Sachs, a very, very important idea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is more interested in what you do than rather what he does. Your minute action, your pitchimi, your one little commitment is so precious to Hashem. They're worth hundreds and hundreds of psukim. This is the idea. The idea is that your action, your commitment, your real action is so special in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what he wants. That's why so many verses about building the Mishkan and the fact that they build it. And that's why this idea here that they brought it to Moshe Rabbeinu and he's the one who put it up. No one else can do it. No one else has to do it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does it. We go through the motions. And so anything that comes in our life, all the challenges, everything that comes, the children, with the family, your job is to try. L'shem Shemayim, for the sake of heaven, with the full commitment, just do it. What you can do. And you'll be surprised by what HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make happen. With this idea, let's look at another idea that is related somewhat and comes from the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Yisrael Belsky, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Rav Belsky says we have to look at Sefer Shemot as it's coming to its conclusion. And the book of Shemot is also known by the Ramban, Nachmanides, as the Sefer HaGeula, the book of redemption. And it makes sense. If you take a look in Sefer Shemot, it reviews how the Jews got down to Egypt, how they were enslaved, and from there, it starts to say how they were redeemed, and from their redemption, they were able to have the Ma'amad Har Sinai, the revelation of Sinai. From the revelation of Sinai, they then had the instruction to build the tabernacle. which leads to the total geula. And that's how you become redeemed. That's the redemption, to become servants of Hashem, to become people that can serve God. Now, Rav Belsky points out, not everything about the construction of the tabernacle and the dedication of the Mishkan is completed in Sefer Shemot. The korbanot, the miluim, the korbanot of the miluim are only found in Sefer Vayikra, are not found in Sefer Shemot, because it talks about the korbanot, what korbanot you would bring up in the Mishkan. So it makes sense to belong in Sefer Vayikra. But says Rav Belsky, we find in the end there are a few psukim that says that Moshe Rabbeinu did bring korbanot in Sefer Shemot. At the end, Vayaroch alav erech lechem, he put up the showbread. Vaya'al hanirot lefnei Hashem, and he put up the candles. He lit the menorah. Vayaktir alav ketoret samim. Vayal alav et ha'olav et ha'mincha. Kashet tziva Hashem et Moshe. So in the end, in Parashat Pekudei, it says Moshe Rabbeinu brought the lechem upon him. Moshe Rabbeinu lit the menorah. Moshe Rabbeinu brought up korbanot on the ketoret, and he brought up the other korbanot on the mizbeach. So what do you see? There are korbanot. Why are these korbanot? Why are these services in Sefer Shemot? That is Rav Belsky's question. Rav Belsky says perhaps he would want to answer based on this idea. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says that the first set of kelim was how to become kadosh. They put special oil on it. From then on, a keli was made kadosh by using it. So you might think the first one, you have to put oil and use it. But the Gemara says no. Moshe Rabbeinu's kelim became kadosh just by putting oil. You didn't have to use it. So it became kadosh just by putting oil. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to use it? You could say, oh, he used it because he makes it kadosh. It's part of making the Mishkan. No, just putting oil in it was enough. So why did Moshe Rabbeinu use it? So here is a Yesod Gadol that says, Rav Belsky b'shem the Ramban. The Ramban Azoy. He says this fine. V'hine hagalut eneno nishlam ad yom shuvam el mekomam v'al ma'alat avotam yashuvu. The redemption from Egypt only will happen when the Jews return to the status of the avot. Ki what does he say? Uksheyatzum mitzrayim alpha pishiyatzum bet avadim adayin yahashvu golim. Even though they came out of Mitzrayim, they were still considered in bondage. Why? In exile, because they didn't have a Mishkan. Ki hayu be'eretz lo lahem nevuchim b'midbar uchshabu al Sinai v'asu Mishkan v'shar Kadosh Baruch Hu v'hishtat shechinato b'nehem. But when they came to Sinai, they built a Mishkan, and Hashem put in Shechina v'shachanti betocham ashavu el ma'alat avotam. Now they came back to the status of the forefathers. Shaya sod Eloah ale alehem. Now the counsel of God was over their tents. Vehem hem amirkava. Be'az nichshevu geolim. Now they were considered redeemed. Velachen nishlam hasefer hazeh b'hashlimo inyan hamishkan uviyot kevod Hashem maleh otot hamid. Now the Chumash ends that Hashem Shekhinah came into the Mishkan. Hashem Shekhinah returned. Now you return to the status of the Father. Says Rav Belsky, what happened in the tent of the Avot? There were three special miracles that happened in the tent of the Avot in the Imaot. What was the miracles that happened in Sarah Imenu's tent? That once Sarah Imenu passed away, it went away until Rivka came. Which miracles? There was a Ner Daluk. There was a candle that lasted the whole week. There was a bracha be'isa. There was a bracha in the bread. It lasted the whole week. And there was an anan. There was the cloud on top of the oil. These three signs were present in the Mishkan, says Rav Belsky. The menorah was lit all day. Right? It lit it at night and it lasted all day. And what's it called? The lechem apanim. It was there. It lasted all week. And you had the anan. The Shekhinah was there. And plus you had an anan on the kitoret. Right? It made a smoke, a cloud. And so you had the return of the Shekhinah. Moshe Rabbeinu had to do this avodah in the Mikdash, in the Mishkan. Why? Because that's how you return the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah comes back when you see these miracles. And so Moshe Rabbeinu did these actions in the Mishkan, and that was the culmination of the return of the Shekhinah. And that's why it's found in this week's parasha, because that's how you get to total redemption. Total redemption when the Shekhinah returns, as the Ramban says. It says Rabelsky, the Musar Yesod, the lesson of the Musar is that every Jew has potential. Every Jew has potential. What happens to the potential is the question, as we mentioned before. The 60, 70, 80 years pass by and he says, I wanted to do. I'm going to have time, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get around to it. And then he goes up and he's in his grave. And he's dead with his potential. Nothing ever happened. At some point, Rabotai, it can no longer beat potential. Moshe Rabbeinu said the Mishkan is not just here to look nice. It has to be used. That's how you bring the Shekhinah. You bring it by doing the Avodah. You have to do something. If you want the Shekhinah to be on you, you have to do something. You have to make the lachem aponim. You have to light the menorah. You have to have the ketoret. You have to do these things. Don't be short on yourself. Don't give yourself short change. Don't shortchange yourself by not fulfilling your potential. Through heartfelt tefillah, limud haTorah, acts of chesed, a person builds his character and refines his spiritual sensitivities, drawing even closer in sublime devekus to the Ribono Shel Olam. We have to look forward and take up the challenges of our personal avodah, which actualizes the potential and brings down the Shekhinah. You want the Shekhinah to be in your house? You have to start living the potential. Don't just say, I could be. I could do. Do it. Learn more. Be nicer. Be kinder. Do these things, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bless the family with plenty of good things. We'll end off with the Dvar Halacha. The Dvar Halacha, well, in this week's parasha, in the past couple of parashiot, we dealt with the clothing of the Kohanim. So, a question on clothing. We all know that we're not allowed to wear shatnez. We're not allowed to wear shatnez. What happens? I want to buy a suit. I don't know if I want to buy this suit. I don't know if it fits on me. I don't know the next suit. The suit might have shatnez. Can I put on the shatnez? So someone wants to say it's not yours. That's not really the answer that we give. Doesn't make a difference if it's yours or not. You're not allowed to wear shatnez. So the idea is wearing it. I can't take my friend owns shatnez. Can I take his jacket and wear it? It's not mine? No. What? So you're saying I'm just checking. Okay. So there's a problem with that too. There's a Mishnah in Kilayim. The Mishnah in Kilayim in 9.2, the Mishnah says as follows. Let me read you the Mishnah. Listen to this. In arai l'klayim. There is no arai, there is no temporary wearing shatnez. Beferush in Mishnah. In arai l'klayim. There is no temporary wearing of shatnez. Velo yilbash kilayim afilu agabe asara. You cannot even wear kilayim on top of 10 clothings. Let's say I have 10 clothings, and my top one is shatnez. You're not allowed to do that. Va'afilu lignov et hameches. And even if, to avoid an unfair tax, as the Bach explains, if they're unfairly taxing the Jews on imports of clothing, so the Jew says, you know what, I'll wear the clothing. This way I won't get taxed on it when I go through customs, right? He can't do that.
And he got scared.
Lo afil lignov et hameches, he cannot do.
He started to cry. What do you do?
Now that's one Mishnah. 3 Mishnayot later, the Mishnah says as follows: Mochrei chisut, mochrin kidarkan. ובלבד שלא יתכוונו בחמה מפני החמה ובגשמים מפני הגשמים. This Mishnah says the guy who sells clothing can put on the clothing to sell it,
That he had a sword. He had a sword.
as long as he's not having in mind to protect him from the wind, from the snow, from this or for that. V'hatzenuim mafshilin b'makel. But those who are more machmer, those who are more careful, they show their clothing on a stick. They don't wear it. So this Mishnah says, if you're selling clothing, you can wear. And the other Mishnah says you cannot wear it, even temporary. So how do you explain these two Mishnayot? So there are two approaches in the Rishonim. The Rosh, he brings down an approach as follows. He says, this two Mishnayot is a machloket. It's a machoket tinaim. There's a machoket tinaim by a davar she'eno mitkaven. If I don't have intention to do something, and it happens, am I hayav or I am patur? Which one is it? So it's machoket. Rabbi Shimon says patur. Rabbi Yehuda says hayav. It's a machoket we have in Shabbat everywhere. Davar she'eno mitkaven. So says the Rosh. The first Mishnah that says you're not allowed to wear it, that's Rabbi Yehuda. The second Mishnah that says you're allowed to wear it, that's Rabbi Shimon. Halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. So halacha is temporary, you're allowed to wear it. Now, he says it depends, what's your kavanah? If I'm wearing it, right, if I'm wearing it to sell, so I'm not wearing it to wear it, I'm wearing it to sell it. So my kavanah is not to wear it. My kavanah is to sell it. If I'm wearing it to bypass the tax, maybe that is wearing it, because I'm wearing it to bypass the tax. That's the Rosh. The Rambam on the other hand, the Rambam says, no. The way to learn it is it normal or is it the not normal way of wearing it? From where the Bet Yosef explains it, the Rambam says, is it the normal way of wearing it? Apparently, those who would sell it, they would wear it in a not normal way. And that's why they were allowed to wear it, because it was wearing it abnormal, in a not normal way. But everything else, if you're wearing it to pass the taxes, you're wearing it normally, so therefore you can't wear it. So the Rambam is, if you're wearing it abnormally, not the right way, you can wear it. Even though it's shatnez, you're not wearing it. Because maybe the whole idea is, lo tilbash, you shouldn't wear it. So if you're not really wearing it, it's not a problem. But if I'm wearing it, it is a problem. So you have a machloket, Rosh and the Rambam. The Rosh says it's mitkaven. What's my kivana? What's my kivana? And the Rambam says, am I wearing it abnormally or not? Now, according to the Rambam, if I'm putting on the suit to check it out, I'm wearing it normally. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. According to the Rosh, maybe I would be allowed to. According to the Rosh, maybe I would be allowed to put it on. Why? Because my kavanah is not to wear it. My kavanah is to check it. But others say, no. Even that wouldn't be okay. Why? Because when I'm checking it, what am I doing it? How am I checking it? I'm wearing it and checking it. How do I check the suit if it's good for me or not? I wear it. So you're still wearing it. So maybe even according to the Rosh, you wouldn't be allowed to. So what is the kula? People do it, and halakha say you're allowed to put it on temporarily, even according to Chamuvadia, who would follow Shulchan Aruch, who follows the Rambam, who says if you wear it normally, it's a problem. So what do they do? So here is the leniencies. Number one, the Minhat Yitzhak says someone who is machmer, a bal nefesh, even to check the clothing, he shouldn't put it on if he has a chance of having shatnez. Others say that what do you want the guy to do? It's a shatat hak. Meaning, if everyone's going to have to make a custom-made suit, it's going to cost everything very expensive. Because you have to make sure there's no shatnez in there. So therefore, shatat hak, what can you do? Others say the issue is lo tilbash, you shouldn't wear it. Which means hana of levisha. You have to have a benefit of wearing it. And if I'm checking it, I'm not really benefiting from wearing it. It's not like it's protecting me. I'm just checking it. So maybe that's why it's allowed. Some want to say it's a suffix sigration. You know, suffix, first of all, is it a doraita shatnez? Doraita shatnez is when the linen and the wool are spun together. They just happen to be there. It's not a doraita shatnez. And then it's suffix even if it's there. So sveika, you're allowed to put it on to check. That's what Chamavadi goes with. Sveika and loy nichale, secretion loy nichale. And I said another one that suffix miyut she'enu matzi. A lot of these suits don't have any. It's less than 10% that they have. So in the end of the day, la halacha is as follows: the bal nefesh, if he can, should not put it on. If you can try that, but la halacha l'maaseh is mutar to put on a suit to check if it fits, to check how it fits on you and stuff like that. As long as you're not having kavanah to enjoy it, right? To enjoy the wear, and it's not something that is known, a suit that's known to have shatnez. As long as a suit is not known for sure, this company has shatnez, then you will be allowed to put it on. Okay, I'll end over here.